Amazing grace shall always be my song of praise. For it was grace that bought my liberty. I do not know just how he came to love me so, but he looked beyond my faults and saw my needs. Amazing grace has brought me through hard trials and tests. For it was grace, Lord, that showed me he's the best. How precious did that grace appear the hour I believe. He looked beyond my faults and saw my needs. And I shall forever lift mine eyes to Calvary to view the cross where Jesus, he died for me. How marvelous that grace that caught my fallen soul. He looked beyond my faults and saw my needs. And I shall forever lift mine eyes to Calvary to view the cross where Jesus, he died for me. How marvelous that grace that caught my fallen soul. He looked beyond my faults. He looked beyond my faults. He looked beyond my faults and saw my. He saw my needs. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wealth Channel. I'm interviewing my wife today. I don't know what's taking us so long. She's coming into the studio. So I'm going to talk to you all today about potential and your potential. And I want to talk to you all about your potential, not only as an individual, but your potential as a couple. Because it's time for us to take back over what the cankerworm tried to take. It's time for you all to get your relationships back in order. And it's time for you just to take what the devil tried to take from you. So if I was you and I was on Instagram, I would switch over to YouTube to Rick the Wealth Coach so you can meet my wife if you haven't met her. And I'm about to interview her. She's in the studio right now, and we're about to start talking. So if you're here on Instagram, I would switch over if you want to meet Shantae in person. Let me say hello to some of you all. First of all, hello, Shantae. How are you today, baby?
I'm wonderful. How are you, King?
I am phenomenal. So good to see your beautiful face. And I hope you're enjoying New York City and our activities down there with Sean. So Shantae, she's with our son, Sean, today. He's down doing auditions in New York because we all sing and act and all of that. So he's doing auditions in New York today, New York City all week. And Shantae is kicking it with him. How are you all enjoying New York City, baby?
Yeah, he just keeps leaving me in the dust, you know. But he's definitely he's graduating in May. And so he's getting out there, taking advantage of every opportunity that's coming his way. And I'm so proud of him, so proud of the young man he's becoming. So
yeah, that's good. Did good work with him, and he's a delightful young man. For you all don't know, our son Sean, he wasn't even a valedictorian, but they asked him to do the valedictorian speech when he graduated from high school. So imagine that you ain't even a valedictorian. So he the kids really loved him, and rightly so, because he got a great attitude, a beautiful spirit, and he's a very kind young man and a pleasure to be around. So for those of y'all who are listening on Instagram, I want to encourage you to come on over to YouTube, to Rick the Wealth Coach on YouTube, so you can meet Shantae and not just listen to me, because I'm not going to be holding this phone up while I'm talking to her. All right, I want y'all to come on over if you can, if that's feasible for you. So good morning, Deborah. Good morning, Berlin. I'm gonna say hello to some people first, honey, before we start. Good morning, Beverly. How you doing?
Good morning.
Sweating Parks, how are you? And good morning, Bishop Derek. How you doing, my brother? The Chosen, good morning to you. Good morning, Alvin. Hope you're having a wonderful day. King Energy, good morning to you. Trina, good morning to you. Jay Brown from Chicago, good morning. That's where I'm from. So God bless you.
Chi-town.
Chi-town. Edgy, good morning. Brother Lawrence, God bless you in Orlando. And Harold, I love you, brother. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Mrs. Joseph, good morning to you. And Renaud, good morning to you as well. So if I was you all, I would switch on over. So Shantae, let's talk this morning, because there's a bunch of people who are, the way that they're living their lives currently is that they can't get through the rough places in their relationships, particularly when it comes down to money. They can't get through their rough places. So let's just talk a little bit about how we have broken up 3 times and got back together. And let's just
keep it real. You gonna be that raw today?
Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. Because everybody always getting on TV and all that, talking about their beautiful marriages and all that. You don't have nobody come on and talk about the fact that they had to fight to stay together. And you and I fought to stay together in the middle of a whole lot of turmoil. And we got to know each other better over the years. And we've come to the place where we're able to actually get along with each other, love each other, support one another, and build each other up. And I just want to encourage people, because everybody ain't having no beautiful, hunky-dory, wonderful relationship. Some people thinking about getting divorced right now while we're talking. And good morning, Melvin, and good morning, Chill Will. How you doing, Doc? And good morning, Vic. God bless you too. And Verlaine, good morning to you, dear. And Verlaine said hi, Shantae.
Good morning, Queen Verlaine.
So let's just talk about it. So we met each other. We first met each other. I was broke. I didn't have any money. You had a house. And you're a very frugal person. And I tell everybody that I meet that you still got your lunch money from 3rd grade. Everybody know that, because you save. You all who don't know Shantae is the CVS queen. We go into CVS, and I don't know what you be doing, but I know we go up into CVS. And that's Willie. How you doing, Willie? God bless you, brother. So we go. I know that when we go to CVS, I know they be giving you money out the cash register, and I know it'd be scaring the hell out of me, because I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, why are they giving you money out the cash register? I'm like, what you got? What kind of scheme you got going on over here? I ain't catching no case for no $10. I remember the first time they gave you $10 out the cash register at CVS. I was like, how did you do that, honey? By the way, I mean, just come clean, because there's some people around the world, and they I'm sure they want to know how you get all this money when you go into CVS. How do you do that stuff?
So a shameless plug. I have a book on Amazon, and I'm gonna start doing the workshops for it. It's called Crazy Coupon Secrets. I think it's only like $6, and it's kind of the intro to how you save astronomically with any vendor, credit card, all the services and stuff that I get. But it's really just being in tune and watching around you, because this stuff is posted everywhere. Remember that time I think it was Glenn and Wes, and we were in one of my favorite records, IHOP, remember? And I was like, hold on a second. He's like, what you doing? And I went and got this gift card, because if you get a gift card, you get like $10 back, and you can use it that day. So I went and did that and came back and used, and I came back. And you were like, and it's like, what you doing? And I paid with a gift card, and I was like, it's right there on that sign right there. It says, if you get this gift card today, but you know, your antennas got to be alert. And so mine have always been on high alert since I was a teenager. So I just noticed that stuff, and I incorporate it.
So you have a book. I forgot about that. We need to tell everybody about that. So you got a book where you let the cat out the bag, huh? What's the name of the book again?
Crazy Coupon Secrets.
Crazy Coupon. So how does a person get your book, honey?
It's on Amazon. Just go to Amazon, type in Crazy Coupon Secrets by Shantae Williams.
So a person, they can follow what you're doing. They can go in places like CVS and actually get money and don't even have to pay for their food like you be doing all the time.
Well, it just kind of gives them the structure, how to get started. So when I start having the workshops and things, you know, we'll do real life examples, how I take this coupon and mix it with that coupon, and you can double dip, and then all the extra incentives that CVS give you. Then you can do the same thing at Walgreens, at Target, and things like that. So you put them all together, and voila, you pay 50. So I paid 50 cents the other day and came back with $15 of coupons that came out of the register. And all I spent was, remember I asked the baby, I need 50 cents because we don't carry any change.
He's asking me, did I have 50 cents? I'm like, 50 cents? What? So you paid 50 cents? I'm sorry.
The bill was 50 cents, and then I got $15 back out of the register.
Yeah, I remember that. The lady gave you all those coupons, and you was cheesing like you just won a lottery. And I'm just amazed at how you do that stuff. So for all of you all who are listening, I'm talking to my wife, and if you all are listening on Instagram, I would switch over to YouTube or Facebook so that you can meet Shantae. I would do that. If you all don't know, just go over to YouTube, Rick, the Wealth Coach on YouTube. So, honey, let's just because we're about to go back and do our financial IQ challenge, and so this is day number 2. So, all of you all listening, you can still get involved in our challenge this week potentially. So, when I first met you, Shantae, naturally I was broke. We're finna get it raw. We're finna help y'all because some of y'all in some situations y'all don't like, and y'all ready to leave y'all wife and ready to leave y'all husband. We just want to encourage y'all, okay? Because we broke up 3 times. All right, I'm talking about got divorced. I ain't talking about we just had an argument. I'm talking about we got divorced. All right. So y'all like, dang, we keep putting all your business out in the street like that. God already know. All right. So whatever challenges y'all have been through in y'all life, you ought to just help somebody else with your challenge so that you can help them get up out of their mess. Because everybody is either in a storm, just came out of a storm, or on your way into a storm. Everybody. And the problem with us is the Bible says, confess your faults to one another, instead of sitting around judging each other and sizing each other up and wasting a whole bunch of time, because you could be your potential is what we're talking about today. Your potential to be able to do things. And you remember when I first met you, Shantae, how I wrote you, remember these letters I wrote you about what I saw in you? Do you remember that?
Yes, I still have them somewhere in storage. I could never throw them away. Never gained the heart to throw them away.
You still got those letters?
I do.
Oh, okay. So, I didn't know you were still holding on to that stuff. You got that. I feel like getting my Mac Daddy vibe on right now. What you saying, girl?
I got one in my phone right now. You wrote me just last week, 2 weeks ago. We're in Orlando. I kept it. I have it in my book bag, and I kept it on my phone now. So I said, if I ever lost one, it got wet or anything, I have it on my phone. So now I'm keeping a copy on my phone too. Just a word of encouragement.
Oh, I ain't know you be getting down like that. I'm glad you're saying it on national TV. Everybody knows what's going on. I know you. I know you be holding on that mushy stuff. I'm starting to feel myself a little bit. No, seriously though. Let's talk about that. One thing that we've learned in the 10 years that we've known each other, one thing that we've learned is that the words that we say, there's always 2 ways to say everything. So what would you say to everybody who, and we start eliminating some things like, man, you always do this and you always do that, because we know there ain't no such thing as you always do nothing. And we used to have conversations like that when we first met each other. So what would you say to people who are listening to us and say, how would you change that language and just stay focused on whatever the particular conversation is without exaggerating so much and acting like the person always does this and always does that, because that ain't even true. What do you say to that, baby?
Well, first of all, I would say you should always season your words with grace anyway. The Bible says, don't let any vain communications come from out of your mouth. And one of the hardships for me is knowing that if you see an activity or you hear something, and even if you know that it's wrong, there's still a wrong way to approach the right thing. And so that's what I'm steadily learning, steadily asking for grace from you, King, that even if I feel I have a point, even if I feel like this is in error, number one, you still have to go to the Father, with your feelings. You still have to go to God and say, God, this is uneasy. And I know opening this can of worms may be harmful for my partner. And when you feel like it has to be said, you go to the Father and say, God, give me a leeway in, allow me, show me the opportunity, or I'm just handing it to you, Lord, so that you can manage my feelings at this time. And so, but also in a practical way, you just learn how to say, like you said, instead of saying always, and you always do this, or you've always said that. Number one, you can't be holding on to the past anyway, so you shouldn't be convicting your partner in that moment for something that they used to do or have done in the past anyway, right? But just learning how to say, with this thing right here, I'm feeling a little easy about this instance right here, and can you help me with that? And learning how to do that in a way that is promoting, and may even tackling it with, or complimenting with, hey, this is really, really a great thing you did right here. But, with this right here, can we talk about maybe another way we can grow if you don't say that way? But just not even leaning on any past practices at all. Just saying, hey, this thing right here, it concerns me. Can we talk about this thing? And if this is not a good time, let's talk about that later when maybe we've relaxed our feelings, and it's a better time to talk about it.
Girl, you sound like Dr. Ruth up in this piece. Not Dr. Ruth people be listening to. I'm talking about Dr. Ruth from the Bible. You sound like Ruth. You sound like you after your Boaz. All you ladies listening, Shantae does have the spirit of Ruth inside of her. But I want to warn all y'all, because Boaz got some cousins, and y'all don't want to mess around with their cousins, all right? Boaz, he got some cousins. First name Lazy, you figure out his last name. First name Trifling, you figure out his last name, all right? Because Bo's last name is Boaz. So y'all make sure y'all mess around with Boaz cousins, all right? So Shantae, one reason I love you so much is because of our stick-to-itness. So let's just talk to people about the idea of sticking to it, even when you don't like what's going on in your relationship. And then we're going to move on to start talking about how we build up our financial empire. But let's talk about first about, you just got through saying, you can think you're right about something, but if your approach is wrong, then it don't even matter about whether you was right about what you're talking about. And I don't think people understand it. I think we be talking to each other so interested in getting our point across about what we think until we just totally disregard the way we're talking to our husband, the way we talk to our wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever, or whoever it is that you are really the closest to. I believe that people need to understand that as people, as the kings and queens of God, we're kings and queens. And just because we believe we have a point, we don't change turning our kingship and our queenship and start acting ignorant and ghetto with each other just because we don't like what's going on at that moment. How do you resist the urge? What do you say to us? How do you resist the urge to get ghetto and start just trying to high side and have your way? How do you resist that urge? What is it that God, do you have any scriptures that you go through? Or how is it that God tugs at your heart so that you can say whatever you have to say the right way? How do you do it?
Now, I don't memorize scripture numbers like you can, but just scriptures like let the godly conversation of the wives, because she may touch her husband. And then the other one I really love is that the heart of the king is in God's hands and he turns it whithersoever he will. And so you got to remember, like, every situation you're going to go through in life is a test for you and that person, but you're only responsible for your part of the test. And so you have to act in a way that's according to the Father, right? And then trust him to do the turning, trust him to melt the heart of your partner in a way that brings him glory, not you, that brings him glory. And because you'll find that as you're trusting God, your relationship with God becomes stronger and stronger, where sometimes those things don't even matter anymore. When your pursuit becomes God and his ways, and your relationship grows that way, all your horizontal relationships work out better anyway. And then the basic thing, though, is to remember that this is God's son, so when you go into God to ask any other request, and like the Bible says, if you have a fault against your brother, you altar, you remember that you have a fault against your brother, God is not going to answer those prayers. So you need to go back to your brother and you need to make that right first, and then God will answer. And sometimes I think we forget that our husband is our brother in the Lord, And so I have to say, God, I want to make sure I'm treating your son right. That's the basics of everything, because I can't be forgiven unless I forgive you. I mean, you can't be forgiven unless you forgive me. So going to God and say, God, I got this issue. I'm taking it to you first and ask that you give me a certain space or a way to speak with him, or you just handle it yourself, because I can't be guilty. I can't be guilty of hurting you because you're God's son. And he's going to deal with me for the way I treat you, for the words I say to you. God is listening and he's watching. So it's important for me as a person to grow in the Lord and to become a better Christian as well.
Well, that's a good point, because we act like we're concerned about what God, who God, what God tell us to do. But then when we want a certain thing, or we feel a certain kind of way about something, then our fleshly part of us, the natural part of us, is so petty until it gets caught up in the pettiness of thinking you right. And what I believe, what I hear you saying, baby, is that, but we both, we both endeavor to treat each other this way, and we certainly ain't batting 100 on it. But and this is, at least this is our pursuit with the way that we talk to each other, is that even though I feel like I'm right about what I'm talking about, I'm still wrong if I don't talk to you right. I'm still wrong. Why? Because that's what, that's the spirit of God inside of you. And all of you all who are listening to us, if you don't feel no tug when you're talking crazy, even though you think you're right about what you're talking about, but you're talking crazy because the demeanor ain't right, the spirit ain't right, the attitude ain't right, the approach ain't right, because God ain't with that. And you already know that God is a gentle person. He's a gentleman. And so he expects us to be what? Gentlemen and gentlewomen with the way that we talk to one another, because words are extremely important. And I'm so glad that you weigh your words and that you think about things and that you even reconsider things when you talk and you say some stuff to me that you shouldn't have said. And I do the same thing to you. I come to you and tell you, you know what? That was bad judgment, baby. And I was over the edge with that, because I get over the edge. I get pumped up sometime, So, I get pumped up sometime. And then I'll be thinking about it, especially the nicer you act too. Then it make me feel real guilty, because I'll be walking around saying, Dad, she all nice and stuff. And I was over here, talking crazy like I'm still from the hood. Let me go back and straighten that stuff out. So I'm so glad that you give me something. I'm so glad you can make me feel ashamed if I don't talk right to you. That's what I'm saying. And I want you to keep doing that. I want you to keep making me feel ashamed if I don't talk right to you through your behavior. Let's talk for a couple of seconds, then let's get into this money before we go to the challenge. Let's talk for a few minutes about, we live in a time where men don't want to be leaders, and they women leading them at home. They don't want to be the leader of the house. They want to let their wife be the leader. And we're in a time where women love that stuff. They want to be the leader of their house. They want to tell a dude what to do, and they want to boss him around and treat him like a little punk. So I want you to tell the world, you're a very strong woman, extremely strong woman. I have an amazing amount of respect for you and the way that you carry yourself, because I'm not no little sissy. You ain't gonna tell me what to do and run me around and treat me like a little girl. That ain't about to happen. So, and if we have some run-ins or whatever, whenever we have one, you have so much grace inside of you until you are willing to be a submissive woman, And would you talk to the ladies that's listening about the idea of the strength in submission? Because I don't believe they understand this. I believe that the preachers ain't preaching about it, first of all, because they got a church full of women. 80% of their churches, women giving offerings and stuff. And these dudes think they pimps. So, we rich. We don't need nobody money, because we work so good to build our own money up by doing right by God. And so we don't need nobody's money. So we don't patronize nobody, women or men for that matter, and trying to smooth up to them and all of that. So as a very strong woman who also believes in submission, what do you say to women who think it's weak to be submissive? Would you speak to that, please?
Absolutely. The very first thing I thought about was, it says that the woman is the glory of her husband, and, he's in the glory of God. It's like, again, when we stop looking at this and what culture demonstrates and what culture preaches, and when we get back to Bible basics, we understand that the husband is our covering. Okay. And so now it becomes kind of difficult to navigate sometimes, because sometimes there are women that are in maybe abusive relationship. There are women that are in a relationship that are not ran by men. And so you have to ask God for the grace to deal with that until he moves you, or if he moves you. Because I don't believe that. I think the Bible says that God hates divorce, but there are some relationships that we are not supposed to be in. And so navigating that path and figuring that out is God's answer to you, that you have to seek him in prayer. However, when you're in a relationship and the man is following God, and even again, if you feel that that man is in error, it is not your responsibility to go over his head. It's not your responsibility to do the opposite of what he says. It's just our responsibility to pray. We're supposed to pray for the head of our households as we are to pray for the governors and the presidents of our land. We pray for those that are in leadership. The Bible is very clear about that. He's also very clear when he says, wives, submit unto your own husbands. And we have to do that. And again, if we feel like that makes us a punk, if we feel like, oh, my girlfriends aren't doing that, well, you don't have to answer to your girlfriends. You have to answer to God for your own language, for your own actions, for your own the way that you your retaliation. All that again is being watched by God. The God expects for our communication to be loving, and he expects for us to come to him, because again, the most important part we have to remember in life is that our husband or our wives, they're not our God, and so all of our communications, all of our allegiance and all that is to God anyway. And as God sees that we are making our priorities correct, he will touch everything that's in. He's going to do everything. What's that scripture I love? Basically, he loved. It's not he cares for you. Cast all your cares upon him, for he cares for you. But there's another one that says he cares about everything that you care about. Okay, so if you care about the status of your relationship, God cares about the status of your relationship. If you care about being holy and honorable before him and love, he cares about those things too. And God he'll touch everything that has anything to do with you. He'll make it right. He'll make all the crooked places straight when he becomes your focus. Again, when your vertical relationship is working, all your horizontal relationships will come under subjection. Okay. And so again, in this culture, they're talking women, you make your own money, you can do your own thing, you can do that. But to do that lonely, to do that by yourself, and be by yourself and talking about all this money you can make, and I'm a boss. And no, you're not. You're a daughter of the Most High King. And when you're in a relationship, you have to put yourself in position as he states it, not as culture dictates it, if that makes sense, King.
No, it makes a whole lot of sense, because the Bible says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. And we got two basic commandments for a husband and a wife. Husband, love your wife the way Christ loved the church, and wife, submit yourself to your own husband. So it's just two little basic commandments. It ain't like it's real, complicated. But when you're a devil, everything is complicated. When you believe in the devil, everything complicates your life. And that's why we got dudes marrying dudes and women marrying women and all that. Because why? Because they got the spirit of Satan inside of them, and Satan tell you what to do and dictate to you what to do. So you just go ahead on, you do what you want to do, and you tell God to go to hell. So I got news for y'all. God, he's not going back to hell. He already been there. I got news for all of y'all. All right. He's in the belly. He went to hell to speak to the spirits in hell. Jesus did. And he already did all his hell. He already did all his hell shopping he going to do. All right. He went to hell and he shopped for souls down there. All right. He did all the shopping he was going to do when he came to earth and went to hell. God ain't going back to hell. So for everybody who think telling God to go to hell, you say, Ricky, I would never tell God to go to hell. If you don't believe that a man is the head of his house, and if you don't behave like that, and if you don't believe that the woman is the helpmeet for the husband, then, and you telling God to go to hell. But I got news for you. All right. You're going to go to hell and you ain't going to find God there, because it ain't no gangsters in the kingdom of God. We are all submissive people. All right. We submit ourselves voluntarily to do what God asks us to do. And we're happy to do it. We're not sad. I ain't sad to be your husband and to be your leader. And you ain't sad to be my wife and to be my helpmeet. And ain't neither one of us tripping about the roles that we play, because it's a privilege to play your role. I want all of y'all to cut out y'all witchcraft. All right. Cut out y'all witchcraft. Cut out y'all fighting. Cut out y'all going back and forth with each other. Cut it out. All right? Cut it out. Cut it out. Because the eyes of man is never satisfied. So is hell never full. So stop telling God to go to hell, and you cut off that hell-bound pattern that y'all got, acting religious, and y'all sitting in the crib arguing with each other and fighting with each other all the time because you don't even know your own roles, because you don't have the same role. You got different roles. It ain't no two heads to a house, because that's a two-headed monster. So I know y'all don't hear this. I know y'all ain't heard this in church in the last 18, 19, 20 years. Why? Because you got them little poo-butt preachers, and they ain't going to tell you that. Why? Because they are respected persons. And y'all, some of y'all sisters, y'all got more respect for the preacher than you got for your own husband. You dig what I'm saying? Come in the house telling your husband about what the preacher said. Well, Reverend John said this, and Reverend Joseph said this, and Reverend John said this. And he's such a punk because he at the church promoting that nonsense. He ought to be at the church promoting a family environment. That's what he ought to be at the church doing. He ought to be teaching the basics of the Bible, teaching y'all that the man is the head of the house and the wife is his helpmeet. And if he would just teach that basic thing, we'd get rid of all of this barbaric behavior that's going on in our community, because y'all confused as hell up in this piece, and y'all voluntarily confused. Are you listening to me? Me and Shantae get along because she understands her role, I understand my role. And we glad to be in the roles. And it took us a while of fighting and tugging, going back and forth with one another to agree to what the Bible already talk about. And once we started agreeing, that's when we started getting on one accord. That's why we broke up 3 times and got back together 3 times, because we love each other so much, until we were willing to fight it out. So some of y'all fight it out. All right. Some of y'all worth it because y'all potential is great. It's the potential that y'all ought to be fighting for. What it is that's not taking place right now, but it has the potential to take place. And just keep it real. If it ain't good right now, work on it and make it good. All right. If it's was it worth it, baby?
Yes, sir.
Is it worth it?
It's absolutely worth it. Sometimes you have to stop keeping score, but what if I do this, he won't do this, but what if I won't do this, she won't do this. You have to leave that up to God. You have to let him make up the difference, because I believe in every circumstance, he just wants to work on you individually, and then he'll bring the parts together in perfect harmony. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. And you know what, baby, you're a happy woman. You ain't got to apologize for being happy, and now you happy and rich. So you ain't got to apologize for neither one of them, because when we was broke, we was working things out, and now we working things out now that we got, a little money. So let me ask you this, because let's take about 10 more minutes, because I know you got to get us ready for the financial IQ challenge. And for those of you all who are listening, we are having a financial IQ challenge taking place in about half an hour. And it's the day number 2 of it. Today, we're going to be talking about how you actually go to the bank, put money in the bank, and they give you back 10 times the money you put in the bank. Then, of course, we got to get our cut and all of that. So today, we're going to be talking about that when we get to the financial IQ challenge, how to circulate your money. So if you want to learn that, you go to myfinancialiqchallenge.com. We'll see you over there. So, baby, when we first met, I was broke. You had a house. You're a very frugal person. You know how to save money really good, as you just got through talking about. You go into CVS and they give you money. I admire all of that. But I told you when I first met you, I was going to be a millionaire. And even though I didn't have any money, and because I knew the potential that I had inside of me. And I told you some things that I believed about you, that I believe was going to happen in your life. And I wrote them down and I gave them to you. And so we started our relationship off totally based on potential, because we didn't have a whole lot. I didn't have anything, any material stuff. I was broke. I worked in the warehouse. And when they fired me, so you was paying our bills, most of them, while I was working in the warehouse. And then they fired me out of the warehouse. I want to thank you, first of all, for paying our bills while I was in the warehouse. And you didn't have nothing. I want to thank you. All right. Because I want you to know I appreciate that. And I want you to talk about how when they fired me and I came home and we were sitting down one day at the computer, and you was talking about, man, it don't look like you look okay. You don't look like, can you talk to everybody about how important it is to see your future, even though what's going on with you right now is definitely not what you was looking forward to. And you looked at me and you said, you sure got a good attitude for somebody they just fired. Can you just tell me what was going through your head right then? And why did you say that to me?
The thing I've always loved and respected about you the most is your resilience. Even back then, And what you didn't say today is how quickly we got married, So we got married basically after 2 months of dating. And so, and most people, I think even one time you said it, we just got married too fast. And I was like, I never saw it that way. I never saw anything but that this is my husband and that he had, again, this potential, and that if I could be a part of helping you harness that, that the skies would open up. I never saw that any differently. And I've told you that through the years. Like, we got married. I was like, I don't see that. I've never said that any of our marriages, divorces, wasn't
Any of our marriages.
well, I never saw them as a mistake. I just knew if we could just find that little, if we could just tweak these couple of things, I knew that the sky would be the limit. And I stuck by that. But I saw you. And then when I began to see kind of the rugged exterior through the years, I began to understand where it came from. And so again, I learned, and with the help of God, that if I can help him to harness these things over here, that he would be great, because it's always been there. And even under fire, even under humiliation, even under the targets, you've always been this resilient person. I knew you wouldn't stop. I was just only concerned about how you were feeling in that moment. And even whether you would ever be able to articulate it to me then, I just wanted you always to know that I was there, and that no matter what happened, I got this stuff over here. But I wanted to see, it was always amazing to see how you were like a phoenix and you would just arise from the ashes. That has been so phenomenal to see. Even now, even in our greatest persecutions today, you do not give up. So, and I knew that then. So even though I was sad and I thought, this is messed up what just happened, there was no doubt you was going to come out of that. And so for me, it was just on autopilot, just keep doing these things, because this man is going to soar. And then when we started doing the plays and I saw you in your element, it's like, wow, now this is I'm seeing him come. And I just keep seeing you develop and get better and better. And even as the staff of 100 people that we're supporting, you keep getting better, and you still amaze me every day. And the more the naysayers talk, I'm still seeing that man from 10 years ago who will not be stopped. It's like, baby, if you want the man to stop, you probably should just stop talking. It's like, only way you're gonna make this man stop is if you leave him alone. Because the more adversity comes, the bolder, the more confident, the more resilient. I mean, you're just a wonder to behold. It's like I'm so grateful because I get first row seat to see this and to see the scriptures, arise, like just knowing that all things are working together for the good. And I've got to see that, how all these little chunks, that have happened through the years have come to this moment, a safe and happy, productive relationship, money in the bank, being able to go and bless people, being blessed to be a blessing. I get to see all that in real time. And of course, you don't see that, back when you're going through it. But I'm telling all of you today, hold on. If you have a man, women, if you have a man in your life that love God, it may just be a little rough around the edges. I mean, remember, he's still a diamond in the rough. And the same thing, brothers, if you have that woman and she loves God, if that's the basis, if that person loves God, then there's hope. Now if it's something else, then you got to deal with that. But when that person loves God and they're just a little rough around the edges, hold on for dear life and become a part of the answer. Don't become a part of the people that cause the hurt and wound your mate. Become a part of the answer. Support them, give them what they need until they become what they're to become, and then all the blessings are going to come. I firmly believe that, and you just a model of resilience. It just blows my mind how you just keep on going as people keep coming and going. There you remain hopeful and trusting in our Lord.
Well, that's very kind of you, baby. I appreciate you. But a lot of that is because of the fact that I get so much strength from you. And even though we don't necessarily have a whole lot of conversations about the strength that I get from you, I'm sure I've told you that on more than one occasion. But the two are better than one, and the threefold cord is not easily broken. And I would be if you didn't have the attitude that you have, and you wasn't a showed up ride or die type of chick. If you didn't have your attitude, it would be much harder for me to do anything that I was going to do. Now, we've had conversations where I say, baby, I'm gonna do it. We're gonna do it together. I'm gonna do it anyway. We've had those kind of conversations. However, we've been able to do it together, and that's all I'm grateful for. Is the fact that you like, what? Even though we done broke up, I don't know how many times. Even when we broke up, we were still friends. And even when something needed to be done and we needed to help each other to do it, we still helped each other to do it because we didn't have this vicious, angry type of hatred towards one another the way that people do. Because people break up and they go shoot the other person in the head. And when we did our when we did our one of our stage plays, one of the young men in our play, the way that I met him is because we prayed. We was at a drive-by prayer vigil with his grandmother because this dude had murdered his own mother. That 12-year-old boy that was in our play. So the dude had murdered his own mother. You remember him? You remember that young fella? And how the dude was mad because she didn't want to be with him no more. So he went in the crib and blew her head off, and then shot himself. And this boy's walking around day in and day out, having these nightmares in his head. And so he was in our play for, with 3 or 4 of our shows. You remember that with the young brother?
I don't remember the incident. Do you remember his name?
Yeah,
you don't have to tell me on here. But
yeah, the young fella's name is my middle name, so you remember his name. So,
okay.
But the fact that he had to witness his mother being murdered in the crib is because the dude, felt like if I can't have you, can't nobody have you. And so he murdered her in cold blood and he killed himself. But you and I done broke up 3 times, and instead of killing each other, we've always tried to figure out, hey, I want you to know that me and you don't really get along real good, but I love you and I don't want to see your demise come about. So all of you all who are listening, if you're going through some trouble right now with the person that you're married to, and whatever's going on, remember that person is a human being and that you are not God. You do not have a right to injure the person because they don't want to be with you no more. All right. You don't have that right. If they decide to walk away, it's got to be some space between you and that person, and you have to accept it. And you can't take the attitude that the world ended and all of that because it's idolatry. So I just want to thank you for never idolizing me, and always having God as the number one focus in your life, even when we didn't had our difficulties with each other. I want to thank you for that. And I want us to just hopefully we are able to help somebody today so that they'll put their pistols up and put their knives up and stop acting a fool and ready to blow somebody's brains out and all that because they can't get along with the person right now at this moment because things can change. And our whole message today, you all, is potential. I'm talking to my beautiful wife, Shantae. And for those of you all who are listening on Instagram, or if you was listening on YouTube, then you can watch her while we're talking. And so we're only going to be about 5 more minutes here because we have to get ready for our financial IQ challenge. So, honey, it seems like we should have had an hour or a couple of hour training on what we're doing because it's so quick until we don't even have time to really address a whole lot of things that I'm sure are on the minds of people that are listening to us. So let's just talk for a few minutes before we go about our monetary change or our financial transition, how we went from not having any money, basically. I mean, you had your money and you had a house and all of that. But when I met you, I always felt like that was your stuff, like you already had that stuff. And even when we broke up, I told you to keep the house and keep all the money and that I was going to take over the stuff that had debts on it. Can you talk to the men for a second as a woman? Can you talk about how God made me into a multimillionaire for being more concerned about you than I was about me? Can you talk about that? Because I think our brothers need to hear that because I think they get so mad when things don't go their way or they can't get along with their woman. I think they get so mad until they get this tit for tat sort of thing and they start getting petty. Well, I want half everything and all that. I don't think a man should have that attitude. I think a man should be like, you can keep that stuff. Can you talk about that? Because I believe that's one of the reasons why we're rich right now. And what do you think about that whole situation?
Absolutely. Now, I'm not a man, but I do know from a biblical perspective that the idea of a husband is to be a leader, provider, and protector in the house. Okay. So in that role, you have to remember that, guys, you're responsible for what happens in that household. And I know as we were divorcing, one of them times, we had started a project, a fix and flip, and as we were divorcing, it just became convenient since we were paying two mortgages anyway, that he would go ahead and stay in that house and I would stay this one up. But he was always in and out of town. And so the house kind of became neglected and whatever. And COVID hit, this hit, and the value of the house really just kind of went low. And I just remember saying to you, King, like, I know you, because we had got it under my business name. And I kind of feel like, King, I mean, I know you want to indemnify me, even as your friend. Again, like he said, we never lost the friendship. And we would always praying for each other, like deeply, like with no animosity. Like, if I'm not the person for this man, then I want him to have a love affair that's out of this world. Those was my prayers. And I'm sure he was praying something different because, as they used to say in the old days, if you love something, let it go. And if it comes back, it was meant to be. And so I had adopted that. And so I was praying for his businesses and praying for that. And at the same time, he must have been doing the same, because even though this house had lost value, and I told him he got approved for this $300,000, and he was like, "I'm gonna go ahead and pay that house to get out your name." And I was like, I don't want you to do that, because you're gonna take a big loss in value. And he's like, "I don't care, because I want to do this for you." And I was like, wow. I mean, and we were just friends. And so he got the house out of my name or whatever. So now we're all free and clear of debt. Well, I am. And then again, he's living in that. We're living in the house now. But just the fact that he said, "I made a promise to you. And even in spite of the fact we're not even getting along at this moment, I'm going to keep this promise to you," because you got to remember, God is listening, fellas, and God is watching. And so God heard his pledge. And so God heard his vow. And it's almost like he vowed it unto the Lord. And so he kept that vow. And also, I remember by October, we had some things happen in business, and he's like, "Can you help me out?" And I was like, "Absolutely, I'm on it," because that's the friendship we were determined to keep, if nothing else. And so I started helping him in business, and we picked some things up, and I think we had our best month together. And it's like, duh, it's a no-brainer. Like, you are both two strong people. You are both talented people. You kind of have to learn how to balance your strengths and weaknesses. And I think we're in a stage of doing that, but we found out that we do so much better together. And that's because he kept his word, fellas. He kept his word. He became a man of honor. He became a man of integrity. He became a man of promise, and God heard his prayer. And when you make the Lord stand up and look, when you're praying and God has to kind of lean over and you say, "Lord, incline your ear to me," and God sits up, and there's nothing God won't do when he sees that you're honoring him and then you're honoring your word, because the Lord puts his word above his name. So when we become faithful in those things that God gives to us, he will open up the windows of heaven for his people. And I'm just so blessed. I get to see all this in real time, and I don't even see it as a seed sow finally coming to fruition. I'm just enamored by this man, and that fact, again, that when he came to Indianapolis, and with essentially nothing but his faith in God, but the word of God in his heart, and to this day, he still is up at 5:00 in the morning, still with the word on his heart, still listening to God in the morning. And now we have these people that we're cultivating, and this is amazing. But it starts with him being honest and being a man of integrity, and just going away from all those old ways and just allowing God to move in his heart. And it's just a beautiful thing to see. But everything that he has, to see a man, was a scripture, when you see a man diligent in his work, even his enemies will bless. I mean, we're being blessed from so many different directions, because we stayed in, we fought, and because this man, he's just brilliant, and I'm just glad to get a front row seat to it all.
Well, I'm glad to have a front row seat in your life as well, baby. You know what we're gonna do? Do you mind coming back tomorrow and finishing? Do you mind doing that? Do you mind going?
I do not mind.
Do you have something
I
in the
do not
morning?
mind.
No,
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. So for you all, we just don't have time to teach y'all what we want to teach y'all today. And I didn't want to teach it by myself because Shantae is an intricate part of my life. So I want y'all to know that it takes two to tangle, and that you can get so much more done if y'all fight through what y'all got to fight through, and y'all to stop fighting each other and turn y'all backs back to back and start fighting with each other instead of fighting against each other. So tomorrow we're going to tune back in at 10 o'clock, you all, because we have to get over to our challenge now. And at 10 o'clock, baby, tomorrow, let's talk about the financial turnaround. And let's talk about that. And let's talk about how we how our kids had to sign these things to be successes, successes in what it is that we're doing. All right, everybody have a beautiful day. For those of you all that are coming over to the challenge, we'll see you all in a few minutes. Baby, I love you. And thank you so much.
Love you too. See you shortly.
Thank you so much for spending time with us. All of y'all have a wonderful day. And remember that, hey, you're going to hit it for me, baby. Stellar is. Can you hit it, baby? Can you hit it? Stellar is. Hit it. Don't leave him hanging. Are you frozen? Are you Can you hit it? Hey, all that submission you just got to talking about. The whole world.
I was waiting for you to do the stellar is part.
The whole world is the. Can you just hit that stellar is and stellar does? Go ahead, baby. Hit it.
I come in on does.
No. Hit it, baby. My throat hurt. Come on, baby.
I don't know the notes.
Stellar is a stellar does. No, you hit it.
Okay, stellar is a stellar does.
Oh, you can hit it higher than that. Hit it with some real. Okay, all right. I'll get you to tomorrow.
You practice.
Hey, we love you all. We see y'all tomorrow. God bless you. God bless you, baby. I'll see you in a little bit. All right.
Okay.